and succulent growers, it's Lynn, and in today's video I'm going to be repotting my little Parodia leninghausii pup that I rescued from my very old mother plant of the Parodia leninghausii that sadly came down with rot probably about 2, possibly even 3 years ago. It was a cactus I'd had for a long time, and I noticed it was not doing too good. When I got it out and cut into it, it had rotted all the way through to the core, and I was very sad to lose the plant. I went through and checked all the pups. All the pups were rotten as well. The rot had spread into them, except for this little one here. This is the one I saved, and I managed to pot it up, get it to obviously reroot, and this is a little bit of new growth on the top there, and now it's time to pot it on. Now, because this poor little pup was the only thing that survived from the mother plant, as I say, all the other pups had died, I decided it needed a bit of a mother. And what I did is I actually put this little pup, once I potted it up, I put it on top of the plant pot of my wonderful fiancé Hans's big Parodia leninghausii cactus that he's had for many, many years as well. Lovely big tall Parodia leninghausii, probably about 3 feet high. And I put it on there with the pups on Hans's Parodia leninghausii, and I think it felt at home, and it felt like it had a bit of a family, that it adopted it. I know I'm crazy, guys, but that's how I am with plants. And now it's sort of February time. I know it's a little bit early for repotting, but I do think I want to give this a repot early, so it's got to be a bit of a head start this year to carry on growing. And I've made the soil mix here, and this is a mixture of about 3 parts of loam, in this case I'm using John Innes number 2, with sharp horticultural sand, and a mixture of grit and a bit of pumice, and using about 3 equal parts, and I've given it all a good mix around, so it's very well draining soil. It's dry soil because it is still February, so obviously I normally wait till sort of the March at least, or the April time, before I start to repot. But as I say, this will be fine. I'm going to repot it into totally dry soil, keep it dry until the April, and then give it a bit of water. It should come into a bit of active growth, hopefully in the springtime. And if you didn't see the original video that I did make at the time, when me and Hans had to do an emergency cut on the big mother plant that we did try to save, but with no luck, do watch that video and you'll see what we were up against when we had to try and save it. Just so glad I managed to save this one pup, so it's part of its genetics living on, and happy to see that it has got the new growth, so it's a good sign it's rooted. So obviously I'm going to be taking this out, checking that the soil and checking that the roots are all okay, and then potting it up in the soil. I'm going to be sharing that in this video with you all. So here we go then, let's get potting. Now, removing the label off, and I've got a little container here to put the old soil in, and I always sort of, with these plastic pots, they're quite easy just to squeeze to loosen up the root ball. As I say, I haven't checked this since it has been potted up, so I have to be very careful with how the root system is. And the reason why I'm not wearing gloves, by the way, is this is one of the sort of soft cacti. I'm used to handling cacti, but if you are repotting a spiny cactus and it's sharp, do protect your hands. I personally like to use sheets of newspaper or sort of thin pieces of cardboard to handle cacti, because I find with gloves the spines can come straight through. But with this case, this is a softie, so no problem. Gently loosen it up. Ooh. Oh, I'm so happy. Look at that, guys. Great root system there. And I'm just going to use one of these just to loosen up the old soil. As I say, be very careful with the roots because it's still young. This is a pup. And I'm using practically the same type of soil that I used with this. I always use about 3 equal parts of loam, grit and sand, and I have made a video on how to make your own cactus and succulent soil, so do check that out. So I don't need to worry about removing too much of this soil. If you're changing to a completely different soil, such as you bought a new cactus and it's they're usually potted up in that horrible peat type of soil, then I do recommend that you remove as much of it as you can. In this case, pretty much okay. As you can see, the roots are all dry anyway because it's been kept dry over the winter months. And that's that. And now I'm going to put the new soil into the bottom. Holes aren't too big in this case, so I think these bits of grit here should stop the soil from coming out. But sometimes you have to put something on the bottom just to stop the soil from coming out. In this case, I don't need to worry. And I'm using very well draining gritty soil. I always like to do this with cactus. That should be okay. And maybe put a bit too much in there. That's it. And then I'm going to gently place this little cutie in there, like so. And then put the soil around. And once I've potted this up, as I say, it is still winter here. It's February. As much as I want to think it's spring, it's not. Got a few little weeks left, but I know that with this type of cactus it'd be fine because it's indoors, it's in my grow room, and it's going to be kept dry until the spring. Gives it a chance for it to settle into its new pot before I start the watering schedule again. And I've had a few people on my channel ask me about watering cacti in winter and should I or shouldn't I, and it does depend on so many different things. And I have actually made a whole video on watering cactus plants in the winter time. Should you or shouldn't you? Because when it comes to February, it's a bit of that in-between month, I always find. So if you're wondering that question, then do watch that video because it explains a few different things about watering cacti in winter. Personally, I keep the majority of my cacti, except for my epiphytes, dry over the winter, but that's because of my climate. I'm in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, which is damp and rainy. So practically all the cacti in my polytunnel, except the epiphytes, I do keep dry. In the grow room, however, it's warm and dry. It's a little bit different, so do check the video out where I talk about should you water your cacti in winter or not. There we go, that's potted in. All nice. Gentle tap to make sure you got all the bits of the soil all going around the edges there. And as I say, do check out the video when I had to do the emergency save on, well, I couldn't save the mother plant, but I did save one of the pups, which I'm really happy about. And I have made a whole video on how to repot cacti and things like that. So I'll share all them links up above and down below in the video description. The label, Parodia leninghausii, my old Parodia leninghausii. Well, it's a pup from the old one anyway. There we go. And as I say, I'm going to be keeping that dry. Normally when I repot cacti anyway, I always keep, it doesn't matter what time of year, it happens to be in the middle of summer, I'll still keep them dry for about 2 weeks before I start to water again, because it's better for the roots to settle into the soil. And I always use dry soil. But this time of year now, because it's still February, I will definitely keep this totally dry until about April, depending on the weather, obviously. If it happens to be a very sunny March and the plants start waking up, then I'll do it a bit earlier, but it will have a chance to settle in. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. For lots more tips and tricks on how you can care for and grow cacti and succulents, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, do give this video a like. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon. And for more growing tips and many articles, do check out my website, desertplantsofavalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic cactus powered day.